Welcome to April 2025 live. If anyone's in the chat, drop a chat. Give me 1 second to get set up. Gotta pop out this live stream chat box so I could answer everybody's questions. Says we don't have anyone in here just yet. Sometimes it lags for a bit. Oh, I might not be public. I'll be doing that sometimes. Let's check the stream. Oh, we got someone in here. It's public. All right, good, good. So guys, setting up the live stream sometimes, like one time I remember I set up a stream and I was sitting in here for like 5 minutes and there was like no comments. I'm like, what is happening? And then I realized I had it set to private so nobody could even see it. I was just in a YouTube digital room by myself. So let's get this chat popped out. 1 second. Hey, Richard McCoy, Swiper, what's cooking, boys? What is cooking? Pop chat. All right, let's move that over here to my other screen. Let's get this muted. Otherwise, you can hear some crazy double talk. Yo, low key, kind of want to play some lo-fi. Let me know if this is distracting or loud. I seen like this dude I follow, he does video game reviews and he's always playing some like chill beats in the background. Kind of want to give that a whirl. Let's see. Can you guys hear that? Oh, 19 people already? Damn, it's only been 2 minutes. All right, let's see what's cooking. What are people saying? Oh, it is Easter, right? Yeah, that's right. Happy Easter. Thank you, Swiper. Dora Barak, hey, nice to see you. What's up, brother? Nice to see you too. So I got back from Axpona, last week. We had a good time there. I did 2 videos covering the trade show coverage there, guys. So if you didn't see those, check those out. I also dropped a review of the Tai-Hang power conditioner a few days early since I was going to be at Axpona. That review went live last Wednesday. A few people in the comment section of that video said they had bought. That seems, I have a feeling that Tai-Hang power conditioner is going to be a power conditioner that ends up having a reputation of adding and not subtracting. Those of you guys that don't know, power conditioners for years were considered these mods that gave and took. For some people it was an odd downgrade. Some people would find power conditioners to reduce the dynamics of their system, while others experienced great benefits. It was really interesting. Is my camera crooked? Yeah, who cares? All right, let's see what's in the chat here. Happy Easter or 420 or whatever. Yeah, it's both days. Video Pro says, yo. Suwat says, happy bunny day, honey. What's up, Suwat? Swiper says, yes, I can hear the background music. Cool, cool, cool. If it gets distracting or too loud or whatever, guys, feel free to let me know. You know what I'm saying? I like it. It's more for me. It kind of gives me something to do besides hear my own voice and read the chat. All right, what's up? What's in here? What are people saying? Jamester Man says he purchased the Vanguard Caldera partly based on my recommendation and Zero Fidelity. He's looking forward to it. Cool. Cool. Yeah, that's a good sub, dude. I mean, for $199 plus shipping, it's hard to go wrong. The only situations where I can see someone being disappointed in it is maybe someone who didn't watch the whole video. There are people that just watch 2 or 3 minutes, so they don't hear portions where I talk about, hey, this is a small sub. It's not going to do much below 30 hertz or, things like that. But unless you listen to a ton of EDM that gets super low, I think you're going to like it. It's got pretty darn good bass fidelity for the money. I really enjoyed my time with it. The only thing, and I wish I would have mentioned this in the review, but I wasn't sure if it was just my unit or not, but Zero Fidelity covered it. The auto function just, it's too quick. It's too quick. So it's a subwoofer. You just want to set that switch to on and leave it that way. C. May saying happy Easter to all. Yes, sir. Swiper 1911 says sounds fine. Oh, I like, that's a good reference. 1911. I'm with that. Dor says I'm planning to buy a speaker at the level of the Arendelle 1528 speaker monitor 8. It's not a specific matter of price. What is your experience? What in your experience is a level above that? I don't know what the monitor 8 costs. Let me take a look. Let's have a look. So, I mean, the bookshelf 8, that's 4,500, but I know you're saying monitor 8. And let me just also double check and see if these prices haven't changed. A lot of people's prices have changed. Oh my God. Their website is really weird. Arendelle's website is like split between the retail store and then the website that just kind of displays stuff. And it's kind of hard to tell which one you're in. I'm just going to go to the store. Here we go. 1528 monitor, 5,900 USD. Look, let's be real. Nemo Propaganda has a lot of data points for certain products in certain price categories. For example, if we want to talk about speakers that are around $2,000 to $3,000, oh my goodness, I've reviewed so many of them. I've got so much experience. When it comes to like above 5,000, I certainly have experience also, right? Just not as much. So I might not be the best person to ask. Above the price of the Monitor 8, I've reviewed the Platamon, the Focal Canta #1, the Franco Serblin Accordo, the Fine Audio Vintage 5, I believe is about 5,000 flat. There's the Bucard E50, that's 4,500 or so based on exchange rate. There's the Radiant Acoustics Clarity 6.2 I have here for review. Those are about 4,500. Those are under though, you know what I mean? So I couldn't really say, man. It depends what you're aiming for. If you want a good size speaker, because that Monitor 8, it's not really a bookshelf speaker. It's quite large. It's kind of like a really short tower. That's a big speaker. And if you're the type of guy who you're like, I want something substantial for my money, it's going to be tough to beat that. That's a big speaker. You know what I mean? Something like the Platamon is, I mean, the Platamon is smaller than the 1528 bookshelf. So it just depends what you want. If you want as much sound power as possible, that is what Arendelle 1528 series brings to the table. Suad says, what did you think of the mini Mons and the Mon Acoustics had at Exponent? I didn't listen to them, bro. Yeah, I didn't listen to them. I was more paying. I was in that room when they had the Platamons playing with their bass module. Video Pro says he's still using the Rhythmic F12 with his 0.7 Maggies and loves it. Yeah, man, the Rhythmic F12 is a great subwoofer. One of the best. Absolutely one of the best. Jamester says it's for a small bedroom. He's talking about the Caldera. Should be fine for his needs. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, the Caldera sub, I think a lot of people getting it are going from not having a subwoofer to having a subwoofer. Like this is their first subwoofer purchase potentially, or their first subwoofer purchase in a long time, or the first time they're adding a subwoofer to this particular system where they've chosen to make this purchase. And I think most people are going to be pretty happy with it. Craig says, love that room you're in. Looks like a happy space. Yeah, man, I look at it like this, like my home is my kingdom. And I try to set it up in a way that I find it beautiful. I find it relaxing, but it's not too much like, say, maintenance, for example. I try to keep things light. You know, I'm not a neat freak, but I'm not a messy guy either. JR says, are you interested in reviewing powered speakers? No. No, not at all. He goes on to say the new Sir-One Vega series monitor looks pretty awesome, especially for a 10-inch three-way. Yeah, it just sounds like something too large for me, and I just don't care about powered speakers. Ted K says, so happy Easter. Happy Easter, brother. S. Daniel says, for me, the RSL 10E still impresses me for 300. Yeah, look, the RSL 10E, that can't be beat for its price. It just can't. I mean, you're getting so much subwoofer for your money. Even a pair of Caldera 10s wouldn't do what a single RSL Speedwoofer 10E would do. The 10E is going to dig deeper. It's going to play louder. It's going to hold on to its composure at the extremes considerably more. That extra $100 spent is worth every freaking penny. And everyone who owns the 10E should not even blink for a second or feel any FOMO about the Caldera. The Caldera is great for 200. I mean, that is a substantial savings at that low price category. But if you've already got the 10E, you've got the best sub $300 can buy by a long shot. Richard McCoy says, at least the Caldera has the option to stay on. My Dominion, he has the JL Audio Dominions, D110s, only have the auto option, which sucks for low-level listening when paired with the NAD. Shuts off after 10 minutes. Damn, that's annoying. I relate, though. The Kef KC62 I have behind that couch also only has the auto option. And I don't watch TV at super loud volume, so there's times where it's just off, and it's really frustrating, man. It is really frustrating that companies do that. I believe it's due to a European standard or requirement. Like I'm pretty sure REL subwoofers sold in the EU have an auto option, but the ones sold in the US don't. And that's because REL believes the subwoofer should be left on to sound its best, and I believe that too. But in the European Union, they're like, no, you're wasting electricity. It's bad for the planet. The quarter of a watt, the subwoofer sucks up. You multiply that by the population and we're just killing the planet. And it's like, it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous. Sean B says, hey, Nemo, did you ever update the firmware in your Aries 2? No, I didn't. I also have, a lot of you guys might not know, I have an Aries 12-1 already. And the Aries 12-1 has the new firmware. So I'm like, why would I modify my Aries 2 to sound like my 12th one if I already own a 12th one? Like I have an Aries with the new firmware and I have an Aries with the old firmware. So I'm just going to leave my Aries 2 the way it is. But I don't really use my Aries a whole lot these days anyway. I'm primarily using one of the live DACs that's still in for review. Those are long-term review samples because the ultimate plan has always been that I review their product as a complete system, meaning their preamp, their DAC, their DDC, and their monoblock as a complete setup. So I still have all the live review samples here, and those are what I'm primarily using for DA. Sloker says, you think Blue Sound's Node N130 with Vinshine LPS upgrade and Dirac needs an external DAC as much as before? The high pass filter in the Node is so convenient. I'm thinking about not messing up the signal. Yeah, I get what you're saying. So I have both the old Node and one with the N1 and the N130. I have both of them, and both of them have the LPS upgrade. You know, man, it depends on the rest of your system, Sloker. If you can tell us what the rest of your system is, bro, I'll try to answer that question, because it's going to be one of those things like, if you've got a system that is geared more towards warmth, tonality, and being tonally rich, the difference might feel a little bit smaller. But if you've got a system that's all about spaciousness, being analytical, detail, resolution, refinement, in systems like that, changes are a lot more obvious. So yeah, Sloker, I'd be curious to know what you're using currently. We've got 32 people in here. Not bad, not bad at all. By the way, guys, friendly reminder, click on that thumbs up button. I don't care about the analytics, but YouTube cares. What clicking the thumbs up button does is it tells YouTube that you like this stream, so YouTube should share it with more of my subscribers. You guys think YouTube shares my live stream with all 30,000 of my subscribers? Nope, it doesn't. Only about maybe 15% of my subscribers will get the live stream pop up on the recommended page. The rest of the subscribers, they don't even know this live stream's happening, but the more you click the thumbs up, the more YouTube will circulate it to my existing subscribers. I'm not even talking about new viewers. I'm talking about just the existing subscribers. It's kind of messed up how that works. JR is asking if there's any word on if Massimo Sound United has found a buyer for their Fidelity division. I heard they are in financial trouble. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I review products. I don't give a shit about companies and their financial struggles. That's not my problem. I don't work there. I'm not a big drama guy. I'm not really interested in other companies' financial resources, how they're doing, their profitability, how many units they sell, if they're selling their company, if they're acquiring another company. Those things just don't interest me at all. I consider that kind of I put that in the category of audiophile gossip. And personally, I feel like there's a lot of that already, maybe too much of that already. So yeah, guys, if you got questions about any of the products you saw in the thumbnail, feel free to drop a comment. I can't spill the beans on everything, but in the thumbnail, we've got the Zoom Method, the Bucard E50, which I've already reviewed. What else is in the thumbnail? The Clarity 6.2s, and I also have a ELAC RS700 subwoofer in for review right now. Oh, Sloker's telling us the rest of his system. Lin Magic integrated from the 90s. Clip sub directly through Blue Sound. It is quite analytical with the Lin, and I think I can polish lots of mini problems with the recent Dirac implementation. Yeah, I mean, you could be right. You know, it's hard to say, bro. Like, what this is going to kind of come down to for you, Sloker, is how good you are at setting up a subwoofer. If you are not good at setting up a subwoofer, and no shame in that, a lot of people, most people are not good at setting up a subwoofer. Irene, what's up? I see you comment. I appreciate you. If you're not good at setting up a subwoofer, Sloker, you are going to really miss that high pass, low pass, perfect crossover functionality that the Blue Sound provides. And you may, have such an issue integrating your sub going forward that any DAC upgrade may feel like it's caused more harm than good, because even if the DAC upgrade gives you more refinement or more detail or a more natural mid-range or better resolution or a larger soundstage or whatever it may be, if the foundation of your system, which is bass in my opinion, isn't dialed to perfection, to your personal concept of whatever perfection may be, basically what you have now, you're going to be bummed. And I get that. You know what I mean? I get that. But it may be worth experimenting. And this is one of those situations I wish the hi-fi hobby was more popular, because what I want to tell you is see if you can borrow one from a friend. But most audiophiles, while we know a ton of other audiophiles online, very few of us are lucky enough to have a lot of audiophile buddies in real life, like a neighbor or a coworker or just a friend we've had for a long time. Most audiophiles seem to live far apart from each other. JR says Sound United owns Polkden and Marantz. I just hate to see them gone. Yeah, I mean, it's the way of the world, bro. It is what it is. Companies come, companies go, Sean B says the ELAC subs are supposed to have good auto room EQ. Yeah. That RS700 has the auto room EQ. I set up so many subwoofers a year that I did try the auto room EQ and room correction, or whatever you want to really consider it. And it is good. It got me dialed in real well, but I still prefer doing it manually after a few days of listening to it that way. I decided to turn that off and just set it up my own way. But, at this point, again, like I know my room so well, because, I'm of the belief that like auto calibration and all those things and room correction, they give and they take. It's a compromise. And like, if you're not good at setting up a sub, you probably want to use that auto, because that auto is going to get you like 85-90% of the way there. But I can get it perfect myself manually, so I just do it manually. It's people talking to each other. Piper Boy Williams. How come your name in the chat has like a gray background behind it? No one else has got that. You have a gray background behind your name and a check mark. He says F18 subs can't be ordered anymore. Website is buggy. You talking about Rhythmic? What you mean? Let me take a look. I know a lot of their stuff is on back order due to tariffs. Let's take a look here. Yeah. F18s are TBD. It says in red, out of stock items are marked TBD. As we're waiting for tariff negotiations to settle, we will replenish inventory and post new prices pending on the outcome. So yeah, guys, a lot of small companies, they can't handle the back and forth, right? There's been days where like companies, if you pay attention, have like raised their prices and dropped them like 3-4 times within like 2 weeks, because this tariff news is so dynamic and it keeps changing so quickly. And companies that have to rely on ordering containers, they cannot risk putting in an order for product, and then by the time the container's ready, or by the time the ship is on the ocean, the tariff situation's changed, especially when it could potentially double their cost. They cannot do that. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Luis Miguel Ferreira says, thanks for your work from Lisbon, Portugal. Hey, what's up, man? Love to see people from other countries. Super cool. Jock says, Fosse Audio, we're at Axpona. Yeah, I know. I was at Axpona also, and I visited every room. I know they were there. I don't know why you're saying that. Ted K says, have you ever heard Magnepan speakers? Yeah, Magnepan guys are super cool. I talked to them last year at Axpona, and then this year at Axpona, I walked into their room and they recognized me, and I thought that was super cool. Most people don't remember me unless they've worked with me. And their memory was so good, in fact, they were like, hey, weren't you interested in reviewing our speaker? And I said, yeah, I was. And they're like, what happened? And I'm like, dude, I just didn't email you. And they're like, oh, no worries, man. They're like, let's do something. And I was like, hell yeah. So I'm going to try to get a Magnepan in here so I can like properly review it. But yeah, I don't want to comment too much on my experience with Magnepans, because most of the Magnepan speakers I've heard, they were phenomenal. Absolutely incredible, yes. But they were the flagship, big ones, like, mega dollar system dealer demo type experience. That's most of my Magnepan experience, Let's see here. Ashesh Shan says, hi, Nemo. Any pair of speakers you found that match best with the Choco Ime? How about Bucart Mark IIs? I think a lot of speakers match well with the Ime. I don't know if I particularly have a favorite. I do like how the Ime pairs with the Platimons, but that's a really lopsided like price of amp and price of speaker system that I just don't think a lot of people would put together unless someone spent all their money on the Platimons and didn't have much of a budget left over for an amp. That's probably what I'd recommend. The S400 Mark II and Choco Ime do pair really well together, but the Bucart S400 Mark II is already on the warm side kind of overall, and the Choco Ime is a bit of a warm amp also, but it's warm like from Kinky Studio. The high frequencies still have a lot of good clarity, but some people I think most customers will prefer to pair up the Bucart S400 Mark II with an amp that's a little bit more analytical by its nature, something like Kinky's EX M1, right? I think that's how most people enjoy their S400 Mark II. I've met very few people that are pairing their S400 Mark II with warmer amps additionally, because you're just really doubling down. But some people do that. Some people want even warmer. And if you're the type of customer that, you like your S400 Mark IIs, but you want even warmer, then the Choco Ime is going to add a little bit more warmth, not a ton, but it will add a little bit more. Yeah. Jock is asking, what's your views on Fosse? Clarify. I feel like I've made that very public already, and it's not on Fosse as a brand. I just have a view on that category of product. The inexpensive hi-fi, like desktop style little amplifiers. And my view on that category is really simple. Look, it's come a long way. It can sound great, sure. Are the products giant killers? No, I don't think so. I think they're incredible for the paltry prices. I have my favorites in that category. For me, it's the RSL IA 255.1 amp. I think it sounds worlds better than almost everything else in that category. But it's not a category I really care to review or spend a lot of time with. Some people love that stuff, and if you're tight on cash, get those types of amps. I mean, they sound clean and clear. They sound clean and clear. And that is what most people in the ultra budget category are looking for. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing I don't love about that price category is high failure rate. I talked to one person that had 3 of those amps burn up. 3, one guy, 3 amps. That's a lot. So high failure rate. Also inconsistent performance, because the parts are so inexpensive. The tolerances for the parts inside are going to be very wide. One of the things you gain by using more and more expensive internal components are tighter tolerances, which means there will be less variance from amplifier to amplifier. These inexpensive ones, you might get one that sounds fantastic. Another guy might get one that sounds just okay. One guy might get one that lasts a year or more. Another guy might get one that only lasts a couple of weeks. And it's the same is true with ultra affordable speakers. We saw this with the Sony SSCS5. There were some guys that got the Sony SSCS5 and they were like, this is neutral. This sounds incredible. This is a taste of the high-end experience. And that's the set I got. I agree with that. But then there was like all these other guys that are like, what are you talking about? This speaker's crazy bright, very thin sounding, very shrill. And some reviewers ended up figuring out what was going on. There was a lot of variance from unit to unit. Not all Sony SSCS5s sounded the same because they were just so inexpensive. It wasn't possible for those parts to just be super consistent. Too Mad is saying the Taihang AC power conditioner is amazing. Had it a week and keep pinching myself. Is it really that helpful? Yes, had no idea that the power issues were such a problem that weren't unaddressed. Yeah, I get you. I feel the same way. The Taihang is fantastic. And I love that it doesn't take up very much space. And I love that it's not crazy expensive. Guys, if you look at the internals of the Taihang and then just find a $3,000 power conditioner and look up internal shots on Google of what's inside of the $3,000 one, you will be very, very, very surprised at what Kinky Studio and Vinshine are giving us for that $1,250 that the Taihang cost. It is incredible. And if you look at other power conditioners that are the same price as the Taihang, and you look at those internal parts, you're gonna feel like these other companies are ripping off the customer. It is crazy what you're getting inside the Taihang for its price. Sloker says, thanks, you're welcome, brother. Bodie McBoatface, one of my favorite screen names on YouTube. I didn't run into you at Expona, but I got to see your video outside the elevators. It was a fun show, though somehow I missed the room that was covered in treatments. Oh yeah, that room was crazy. That room was crazy. Yeah, I missed a lot of people. I didn't bump into a lot of people. Jonathan Moore says, happy Easter, butt fart. I don't get it. I don't get that. Piperboy Williams says it's because his screen name shows up like that because he has a verified account. Oh, I didn't know YouTube was doing verifications. I know X does it. I know Instagram does it. I didn't know YouTube did that too. That's cool. Richard McCoy says, I'll be here impatiently waiting for the day Nemo drops a Perlison review, whether it be a speaker, sub, or both. I just want to hear what your thoughts are on them. Yeah, I want to check out Perlison also, but it's tough because a lot of their gear ships on a pallet. But they do have that new 8-inch subwoofer. It's not released yet, but I saw it at Axpona, and I might be able to get a review sample of that. The distributor is super cool people. It's Fidelity Imports, and their team is awesome. Like every year at Axpona, I see them, and they're just such a good vibe. They're more than happy to send me a review sample. And just every time I'm like, I can't do the pallet. I can't do the pallet, you know? And they're super understanding, you know what I mean? But we're going to try to work something out and make that happen. Ben is asking how the trip was to Axpona. It was cool. It was cool. I balled out and I flew first class both ways, so the flight was chill. The show was cool. Good vibes, good people. I'll be honest, my back really, really hurt just from all the walking around. I've had this problem since I was a little kid. If I walk around for more than like 10 or 15 minutes, it just gets tight for one reason or another. It is what it is. So a few people might have caught me squatting down like in the stairwells, just trying to like stretch my lower back. And but other than that, it was a lot of fun. Good food, good people, good rooms, good hangs. Carlos Gomez says, you guys in America are going to get screwed over prices. I mean, we don't really know. I think you're just guessing, Carlos. Maybe not. In America, we have pretty good prices for most things. You know what I mean? But we'll see what happens. I don't think anyone can really guess on what's going to happen. Piper Boy says, when you get to 100K subs, YouTube verifies you and makes your comments look different. Oh, they're putting respect on your name. Okay, I see. That's pretty cool, man. That is pretty cool. Carlos Gomez says he bought his Rel 1205 Mark I due to my review. Awesome. That is a great sub. That is a very good sub. That sub has one special ability I've yet to come across with any other sub. You can put the 1205 Mark I with any speakers. You can pair it with any speakers, and it'll always sound great. It has no tone or tonal coloration of its own whatsoever. It is the most neutral sounding sub. It has no character of its own. And as a result, you can set it up with affordable speakers. You can set it up with little speakers, big speakers, expensive speakers, speakers that are bright, speakers that are warm, speakers that are dry, speakers that are analytical. It doesn't matter. The 1205 Mark I is happy in any system. It's incredible. Piper Boy, you said you at Axpona, SVS ran SB17 super hot. I didn't see that. I saw them running the SB, what are they calling it now? The SB 5000. That's what I saw. They had the SB 5000 in the rooms. It sounded pretty good. But yeah, most companies, when they're showing off bass, yeah, they're running their stuff super hot. Absolutely. Sloker, and your opinion on Dirac? Have you tried it with the Blue Sound? No, I don't care about room treatment. I'm not a DSP guy. I'm not a room correction guy. I use physical room treatment to fix my room. So I have like the acoustic panels and bass traps and things like that. That's how I fix my room. And I prefer that. I understand not everyone can do that, especially if you're married, especially if you don't have a dedicated room. If like your system is in a living room like this, where your wife is, your kids are, it's a family space. Of course, I don't expect you to have room treatment all over the place. So some kind of room correction, DSP room correction is going to be your only choice. I suggest to most people experiment with it. If the room's got a ton of issues, room correction could be a godsend. If your room doesn't have a lot of issues, I've met some people that are like, you know, room correction did make some parts sound better, but you know, I felt like it kind of closed off this or that. They felt like it was a give and take. But if you got a lot of room issues and you can't use passive room treatment or physical room treatment, by all means, try that kind of stuff. A lot of people have found a lot of success with it. JR says, do you have any experience with the newer Emotiva XDA3 DAC? Do you think it would be a sonic improvement over the older PT100? I don't know about the XDA3 DAC. I could try to look it up real quick. Sorry, Mike. So the PT100 was a preamp with an internal DAC. The XDA3 is a dedicated DAC with preamp functionality. These are two very different products. If I was a betting man, I would absolutely bet. Also, I mean, the XDA3 is more than twice the price of what the PT100 cost. If I was a betting man, I would absolutely put my money on the XDA3 being better. How it would be better, I just couldn't tell you. I have not reviewed it. I'm kind of curious about it, though. I'm kind of curious about it. Kind of curious just a little bit. Maybe I'll reach out to Emotiva. I don't know. I do like Emotiva products. They generally impress me for the money. This is one of those situations where if you were looking for a sound quality improvement only, I'm willing to bet a standalone DAC that's a little bit more expensive, but still, relatively close in price, like the Live Micro DAC, might give you a better sonic only upgrade. But if you're looking for a full featured DAC, Emotiva has always been great at bringing us great value for the money, and I'm willing to bet this is probably one of the better ones under $1,000. But I don't review like full featured DACs that have like integrated preamps and all kinds of stuff like that. It's not my wheelhouse. Carlos says, what do you think of new Class D amps with GaN-T technology like AGD, Orchard Audio? I mean, like, I've heard the AGD stuff at trade shows. It's phenomenal. I've heard the Orchard stuff at trade shows. It sounds pretty good. I've never reviewed an amp like that, but the new Live Harmony monoblocks are GaN amps, and I will review those with their matching preamp as a complete system. So I'll maybe have an opinion on it later, Video Pro says, can't wait to see a Magnepan review from you. I haven't heard their flagship speakers. I fell instantly in love with the 0.7s and don't see going back to box speakers. I could totally see that. The Magnepan sound, if you're a fan of it, oh man, there is no replicating it with the traditional speaker design. It's just such a different technology. It is such a different technology. And it is definitely awesome. Jonathan Moore is asking if I heard the live setup. Yeah, of course. It was one of the first rooms I ran to and checked out. I think I even said that in my show coverage video. Yeah, I definitely checked out that room and did some listening, but I don't pay attention to really like what I'm hearing at trade shows, because you got to realize, like, while I know what the live DAC sounds like, I know what their preamp sounds like, I've never experienced their monoblock. I've never heard the speakers they have in that room, so I don't know what's doing what, right? All I could tell you is the room sounded fantastic, but I couldn't tell you if it was because of their preamp or because of their monoblocks or because of the speaker. I couldn't tell you. Just as a room, and especially a room with absolutely zero room treatment, amazing. Gurveer Singh, thanks for all your work. Just got myself the Platimons Blue Sound Node Icon and waiting on a topping B200. Currently using Fosse V3 monos as a stopgap. So you're on the analytical side. You like detail. You have your system set up to be full-blown analytical detail first, going into the recording as much as possible, things like that. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that if that's your taste, but that is what you're doing. So you're not going to be getting a lot of like warmth and richness and things like that at all. You're going to be getting a ton of detail. The violin string you're going to hear with so much fidelity and things like that. And that's going to be an incredible system in a lot of ways. The topping B200 are, let's be honest, those are going to still be down market. You're not going to be getting the very, very best out of the Platamon. But if you're a detail first customer, you'll probably be satisfied. Carlos Gomez says that's the only thing missing in my system is a power conditioner. I just have a difficult time spending good money for one when I could possibly do better with a new DAC or source for better fidelity. I get that, bro. I really get that. One of the common questions I get from people is what they should spend their money on, right? Like, hey, this is my system. I'm itching for an upgrade. Should I upgrade my DAC or my speaker or my sub or this or that? And that's tough, like especially when you're not so much looking for a different particular sound, but you're more like, what's going to give me the best bang for my buck? Because that's different with everyone. Like for me, adding a subwoofer is always the best bang for the buck. But if you're not sensitive to bass fidelity the way I am, you may feel otherwise. Like to me, a DAC is not the big difference. It seems to be like to some people. I've talked to some people that feel a good high quality DAC is where you should start. And I think it's totally okay to use the internal DAC of a node for a while and maybe have a nice, really high quality amplifier first. So we all have slightly different hearing and we all value slightly different aspects of sound. So I couldn't tell you, brother, where you should spend your money, if it should be a power conditioner or upgrading your DAC or something else even. For some guys, it's cables. Some guys might say, oh, no. You got to upgrade your cables. And there's some truth to that too, guys. Don't fall for that nonsense that cables are snake oil. I wish they were. I wish cables were snake oil. I wish I could just use cables that are 15 cents a foot for just, some basic 14 gauge copper. I wish that sounded the same as my $400 cables. And my cables, I have 2 sets of cables from the same company. They're not expensive. One of them is like their $100 cable. The other one is like their $350 cable, something like that. I've had them for years. I never really talk about them because I don't want people to think I'm like a cable peddler. But I recently got curious. I never A/B'd them. I just didn't care. What I did is I just used the cheap cable anytime I reviewed a cheap amp just for convenience. So I wouldn't have to like unplug my other cables. But I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to try to A/B them. I'm going to see what these are all about. I couldn't believe the difference. I really couldn't believe the difference. It was very, very apparent, man. But yeah, dude, it's you know what? This is what I'd say, Carlos. Upgrade the thing you want to upgrade, and who cares how it turns out? It's a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. Buy the thing you think you're going to have more fun with, whatever it may be. Ian says, Choco and Ime, I'm getting annoyed. Were you trying to say you're getting annoyed? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, bro. You typed that real fucked up. I don't understand what you're saying, Chief. Jock101 says, how would you compare the Caldera sub to the Bowers & Wilkins 608? Good question. Bowers & Wilkins 608 is pretty expensive. Let me check its current price. I've always felt it was too expensive, especially in the US, but you can find them on they're $600. You can find them on the used market for around $250. So the Caldera is going to play a lot louder. Let's just get that out of the way. So if you got like a little micro theater or something, you're going to want the Caldera. If you're a sound quality first customer, that ASW 608 is a unique situation where I think Bowers & Wilkins accidentally made what I would damn near consider an SQ subwoofer, and it sounds pretty good. The problem with the ASW 608, well, it's a pro and a con at the same time. It doesn't have any kind of built-in limiter, which means it'll go below 30 hertz. Oh yeah, it'll go below 30 hertz. Correction, it does have a built-in limiter, but I'll come back to that. It'll go lower than 30 hertz. But if you demand volume out of it, sometimes just 75 dB on certain songs, it'll bottom out immediately. It runs out of steam immediately. It doesn't have very much power at all. It's got maybe 100 honest watts, maybe less. I don't know. Because Bowers and Wilkins only rate peak power. They say it's got 200 watts of peak power. For all we know, it might only have 75 watts RMS. I don't know. Now, there is a switch on the back of the ASW 608 for A, B, and C positions. And A pretty much is like there's no limiter. B starts to roll off the bass a little bit, and C rolls off the bass even more. And you'll set it to one of those settings based on how much output you want out of it. You get it set up right, it can sound pretty good, but no matter how you have it set up, the Caldera will play louder. Now, in terms of bass fidelity, they're both pretty good. They're both pretty good, no complaints. They're kind of on an even playing field in terms of bass fidelity. But the Caldera, just much bigger sense of scale, much fuller sound. I mean, it's a bigger sub, you know. Give me a question. Give me a second, guys. I gotta take a little sip of the today's not sponsored beverage, LaCroix Guava. I prefer the Pastique, but it's been sold out at my local store for a while now. Dora says, I understand this is a general question. Have you found that larger speakers with larger elements versus, I think you mean larger drivers, versus smaller and narrower ones have a smaller and less accurate stereo image? No, I have not found that to be true. I have found differences between, how big the driver is. It's usually not in imaging, like something like the Zoo DWX or Zoo Method. Those use 10 or 8-inch drivers respectively, which is much larger, much larger than most of the bookshelves I review. Most of the bookshelves I review are going to use anywhere from a 4-inch driver up to about a 6.5. That's the most common. 6.5 is probably the most common. An 8-inch is substantially larger than a 6.5, and a 10-inch is like, you want to see the math on it? Hold on. I'll tell you the math on it. This surprises most people. Watch. Because a lot of people think a 6.5 is only like 2 inches bigger, 2 inches or 1.5 inches smaller. Like it's maybe like a 15% difference. No. So let's do it. Let's do a diameter calculation. So a 6.5 is 3.75 inch diameter at 6.5. So a 6.5 inch has 33.18 inches of surface area. An 8-inch is 50. Let's find what that is expressed in terms of percentages. X is what percent of Y. Bring up a calculator. Of course, my calculator fails. Okay, so let's get those two numbers again. So we have 50.27 square inches on the 8-inch. 33 on the 6.5. So the difference is 17 square inches. So let's see, 17 square inches. What percentage of 33.18 is that? An 8-inch is 51% larger than a 6.5 in surface area. 51% larger. That is a big difference, guys. So that's why I said an 8-inch is substantially larger. So again, back to your question. Imaging is not the difference I've found. What I've found is sense of scale, effortlessness, just staging overall. You get such a bigger sound. It is really remarkable. Oftentimes the sound stage is considerably larger as well, but smaller 6.5-inch speakers have come a long way in having a wide sound stage, so they're pretty good. But yeah, like even though the Zoo DWX is only like $1,400, it has a larger sense of scale than any of the $2,000-ish speakers. It sounds more effortless than all of them. It's got a 10-inch driver, man. It's way bigger. Carlos says, I have a similar room to yours. I'm getting better integration with 2 subs out of phase. Is this normal? You know, depends on the room, man. If your subs are on the main wall, 2 subs out of phase. So both of your subs are set up to 180. Is that if you're saying you've got 2 subs on the main wall and one's at 0 and one's at 180, that's not super normal, but that might work in some rooms. If you're saying you have your speakers and your subs on the main wall and both your subs are 180, that can be totally normal for your room. That's how I'm running my setup most of the time. In my room, if I have my subwoofer set up with 0 phase, I get a big cancellation at 50 hertz, but I get a ton of mid bass and hardly any low end. When my phase is set up at 180, I get much more low end. I get a little bit of cancellation in the mid bass region, but I can account for that with where I have my crossover. So yeah, it's hard to get a perfect phase, but I get much closer with 180 in my room, yeah. Oh, that's funny. Jamester's saying it's 420 on a 420. Maybe if you're on the East Coast, yeah. I'm in California. It's 136 here, but you probably left this comment like 15 minutes ago. Yes, Suad is saying no, it's 320 in the Midwest. Mike Huntington says, based on Zero's impression of you, this must be your favorite day. Bro, he's an idiot with that. I don't even smoke weed. I literally don't smoke weed. The last time I smoked weed, I was probably 25 years old. I'll be 42 in a month. I don't blaze at all. He just like, he says I sound like a stoner. I don't know what's up with that. I totally disagree with that. I don't think I sound like a stoner at all. I think I'm super alert, in fact. Like maybe if you catch me and I'm like tired, but at the same time too, most of the time when I talk to Sean on the phone, it's late at night because I have a day job. So like I'd be tired and shit, but like I don't blaze. To me personally, if you're around my age or younger and you smoke weed every day, like what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? It's one thing if you do it like once in a while to like take the edge off, relax. The same way a lot of people might enjoy a glass of wine or a beer with the boys, whatever. But I do not believe in having a daily drug habit. I don't think that's good for most people. But I have met some people that it just seems to work for them. I just don't think that's common. I think if most people smoke weed every day, it's going to make them lazy. That's what it did for me when I was in my 20s, you know. But yeah, I'm not like oh, weed is the devil's lettuce or anything like that. It makes me unproductive. JR says 220 here in Saskatchewan. Yeah, man, Canada be having crazy names for places. What Saskatchewan? That's too much. Canada, relax with how you name things. It's too much. It's unnecessary. You're being dramatic. Ted K, hit that like button up. Only like 8. Yeah. Please hit the like button. Let me see where we're at with the likes. Because guys, again, friendly reminder, the like button makes YouTube share this video with more of my subscribers. Not everyone gets alerted. 35 likes, not too bad, not too bad. Richard McCoy says the Live is using silicon carbide in the switch mode power supply, not GaN, which I found interesting. I don't know about that, Richard. I'm not a circuit expert, but Wang, who's the engineer over at Live, said that the monoblock is a GaN FET, for whatever that's worth. George Bravo, did you decide if you wanted to buy the E50? Yeah, I did. Yeah. I just didn't want to make a whole song and dance about it. I'll be honest, I don't like it when people like ask me if I'm going to buy shit or not. I feel like that's people trying to count my money, and I don't really like that. I don't mind if people ask me like way later or like in a live stream or in my Discord, that's okay. But I hate when people ask me that question in the comments of the review. I feel like it's a very loaded question. I don't like that at all. but again, I don't mind people asking me like months later in a live stream or in my Discord or whatever. That's okay. But yeah, I think sometimes people are a little bit too wrapped up in my personal spending habits. Because here's the reality too: is it's hard for me to like answer the question in a YouTube comment without coming across like an asshole. You know what I mean? But anyway. Stay Brown says, once you have a complete setup before you upgrade any component, get the Winscheiden power conditioner. Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be good advice for some people. Depending on, your home's electricity, a power conditioner could be one of the biggest upgrades you ever do. I've talked to many people like that. Richard McCoy says, Saskatchewan, eh? Carlos says, what's your opinion on bi-amping or bridging amps with two identical stereo amps? No opinion. Haven't really messed around with it. Ian says, sorry, man. Gangster stuff on Easter. It's all good. Jock says, do you think acoustic panels are better fitted behind the speakers or in the opposite wall? If you only have two, the most important parts of the room to treat first are your first reflection points. So if your speakers are here, like I'm your main wall, your first reflection points are here usually, right? They're in front of your speakers, usually by a few feet off to the left and to the right. And you can use the mirror technique to find your first reflection points. And that means you sit in the listening position and your kid, your wife, your friend, your neighbor, whatever, moves a mirror on the side wall. And once you can see your speaker in that mirror, that's your first reflection point. Make sure you're seeing the speaker closest to the mirror. Like if you're doing it on this side of the room, make sure you're seeing this speaker's reflection and not this one's, right? That if you're seeing the one that's further away, that is second reflection point. Yeah, first reflection point, most important in my opinion. Jock says, thanks for all the replies. Yeah, no problem, man. Suwat says, that looks like a cannabis plant behind you. It's definitely not a cannabis plant behind me, but I guess it does look like that from here, huh? It's fake, by the way. It's totally fake. I think it's supposed to be like a fake eucalyptus plant. DR says, need sativa, indica, go to sleep. No, that's bullshit. That's not true at all. I'll be honest. You want to talk about snake oil? I think the whole like indica sativa thing stoners talk about is complete snake oil bullshit. When I was a stoner in my 20s, never once did I smoke a strain of weed that made me feel uplifted or energetic. Every time I smoked weed, regardless of the strain, this is what happened. I sat on the couch, I watched TV, and I ate food. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. I don't believe that different strains of weed are like uplifting and shit like that. I think that's bullshit snake oil, man. I think that's what big weed wants you to think, bro. Carlos Gomez, John, oh, he's talking to someone else. Jock says that vape is full of THC. No, it's not. This is nicotine, baby. It's nicotine only. DR says, I think people ask if you bought it to see if you really liked it. That's my guess. Yeah, probably. But again, I'll put that in the category of counting my money. Cause like, this is the thing you guys don't realize. I can buy anything I want. And now you understand why I don't say that. It makes me sound like an asshole. I have a lot of money. I could buy whatever the fuck I want. Me buying something is not necessarily indication of how much I love it. There's been plenty of products I have loved that I have not bought and I've just sent back. Because while I have the financial resources to buy, like, I'll tell you this, my system is very inexpensive compared to my earning. It's very inexpensive. It's just what I like. I'm not super bougie when it comes to audio. I actually don't like $20,000 and $30,000 speakers. I could definitely buy them, but I don't love them. Once speakers get, it depends. Once you get north of 10,000, you start seeing this north of every like bit you jump up more in price, you start running into a situation where the speaker's great. Sure. It's amazing. Yes. Way better than what I own, but you got to feed them good recordings, really good recordings. And a lot of the music I like isn't top tier quality recordings. Like my recordings aren't bad, but Some of these more expensive speakers will absolutely rip them apart. And so again, whether or not I buy something is no indication of how much I love it at all. I'm very financially disciplined. I don't buy something just because I like it. It's just not how I work at all, because I can always buy it later. Like there's no need for me to jump the gun and buy something. There's no need for me to make a decision quickly. If I want something, I'll buy it. You know, if I love it and I think I'll use it. But there's times I'm like, I love this thing, but I'll probably won't use it. Especially like with speakers. I own so many speakers already. You know what I mean? Like there's physical space constraints you guys got to consider too. Like I loved the Zoo DWX. I wanted to buy it so bad. The price is no issue for me, but the size, it's a good size speaker. And you guys got to think about, where do I put all this shit when I'm not, you can only listen to one set of speakers at a time. Where am I going to put these things when I'm not listening to them? Like half my garage is already taken up by just boxes and packaging from all these review samples. I can only park one car in my garage as it is. You know what I mean? So I got to have all these extra speakers just like in my home. So whether or not I buy something, guys, it is not an indication of if I love it or not. It's just not. Kyle asks, does the Vinshine tie hang power conditioner come with a power cord? I don't remember, because I already have so many power cables set up behind my rack. I always have an extra one available. So anytime I review something, I never use the power cord it comes with. It doesn't mean I'm always using a fancy power cord. I have cheap power cords, like basic ones behind my rack also. But just to make my life easier, I've got like everything's pre-run behind my rack. Like I'm always ready to like swap something in and out. I never use like the factory power cords. Even like when I review a Rel subwoofer, I never use the included high level cable because I've already got 3 of them set up for Rel subwoofers. I don't take them out of the packaging. Getting thirsty. Richard says that the live monoblock is GaN for the output stage of the amp, but silicon carbide for the switch mode power supply on the live monos. All right, I don't know what any of that means. I'm not a big like internal circuits guy or like topology. I don't care about none of that. Like my whole thing is I only care about what stuff sounds like in real life. Like in a real world usage case, what does it sound like? I got no interest on like proprietary tech or topology or any of those things. It just doesn't interest me. I think too many companies take advantage of that stuff and use it as marketing. I'm not saying Live does that, but many brands do. So I just started ignoring all that. Same with specs. What else we got here? Suwad is saying, so you're saying legal weed has become craft beer? Kinda, yeah, bro. Yeah, Suwad, exactly. That is exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of snake oil. Yeah, even like beer tastes like shit. Like it does. Unless you drink it all the time, it tastes like shit. And if you drink it all the time, then you might be an alcoholic, man. Carlos Gomez says, what do you think is the best input for a DAC, coaxial, Toslink, or USB? So it depends on the particular DAC, on the implementation and the parts they're using. In theory, USB should be better, is my understanding. That's why I got the Node N130. I was talking to Alvin at Vinshine, and I told him I was using coax out of an old Node because I didn't have the N130. And he's like, hey, you should get an N130 and use USB. Like I've tested it like crazy. It does sound better. And for years in the comments section, I've been told that by the viewers. But USB between those 3 should be the better. If you have I2S, that's supposed to be even better. Jock says the cannabis industry is very similar to the audio industry. I could see that. Yeah. Carlos says on that subject, do you think good power cord makes a difference? Yeah, it does. It does. I wish it didn't. Again, guys, I wish all this shit was snake oil. Because then I could just tell people get the cheapest thing. It will sound amazing no matter what, but it's just has not been my experience. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. It's a short story. I like aesthetics, as you can see by my home. I'm a very aesthetics first customer. And in my system, you could see a lot of the power cables, and I want them to look sexy. So I bought really nice looking power cables. They were $229 each. I got like 5 or 6 of them. I even got one for my subwoofer. Completely unnecessary. I 100% bought these power cables for aesthetics. I did not believe it would create a sonic upgrade. I was not looking for a sonic upgrade. I didn't care. It was the last thing on my mind. So they arrived. I plugged them all in. I sit back and I marvel at how beautiful they look. I'm like, these look great. Love it. I play a song and immediately I went, oh shit, because it sounded more open. It sounded like I had a darker background, and that really surprised me. But the reason I don't talk about this stuff ever or make a video about it is people get so mad. People get so mad. And my thing is, like, I'm not even telling you to buy a power cable. Like, I didn't even tell you what brand power cable I have. I don't use affiliate links. I don't care what anyone buys. If you don't believe in it, don't buy it. Don't buy power cables. You use the regular one or get one, a good looking one for $30 off Alibaba. I don't care. I don't care what people believe in this hobby. I don't care how they choose to spend their money. I think everyone should spend their money in this hobby based on how they enjoy the hobby. And it's okay with me. Because again, I don't make money off this stuff. I don't use affiliate links. I don't get kickbacks. I don't care. I don't care. But like, God, I wish I could share my experience with people on power cables and some of the more like snake oil shit without something like 30% of people losing their mind. The way these people react is like I kicked their dog, And I usually block them pretty quickly, but it's crazy. Like, okay, if you don't believe in them, don't buy them. But the rest of us that enjoy them, like, what do you care how I spend my money? What do you care? You can think I'm stupid. I don't care. Who cares? Who cares? I'll even go as far as to say this. If like God came down from heaven and he said, Nemo, the only reason the cables sound better is it's psychological, is because you see them as beautiful. Your brain interprets them as sounding better. It's completely false and just happening in your brain. I'll say it's still worth it. A perceived difference is still a difference. Grandma's cooking always tasted better. Was my grandma a better cook than anyone else in the world? Probably not. But there was something nostalgic about grandma's house. For one reason or another, food tasted better at grandma's house. It was probably just my perception. It probably wasn't really better, but it was. Even a fried egg at my grandma's house, it was the most delicious fried egg in the world. We live in a world of perception, Got a little philosophical there. All right, what else we got? Corky's saying he watched I saw your review of the dollies recently, and I don't believe you reviewed any dollies since they left a bad taste in your mouth. They didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth. They're a little too bright for my taste. Some of the best bass quality and tonal richness I've ever heard out of a little bookshelf speaker at that price. Dolly's driver material really is fantastic, and you can believe all the marketing literature about it, the way they talk about it. It sounds fantastic, and I did give it credit for that. I don't have a connection with Dolly. I have no way of getting a review sample from them. Back then, I was buying speakers to review them. When I started my channel, I had to buy speakers to review them or borrow them from a friend or a neighbor. I believe that particular set I borrowed from a friend, but I don't know anyone at Dolly, so I can't review their speaker. I no longer buy products to review them. The channel has finally become self-supporting. This YouTube channel used to, in the first 2 or 3 years, this channel operated at a $10,000 loss per month. And my goal was always just to get it to break even. And now it breaks even. And that's not because it generates money. It doesn't, outside of like a few $100s a month from like ad revenue. It breaks even because I don't have to buy products to review them anymore. I get review samples and then I send them back afterwards. Ted K, have you heard any RSL speakers? Man, come on, bro. Like, all my reviews are there. They're there. My reviews are all there on YouTube, bro. Not only did I review the CG3M, I gave it a Product of the Year award later on that year. I want to say that was in 2022, maybe 2023. Like, my video history is there for everyone to see. You can go to my channel on a computer. You can go to my video section and you can search for all my videos there. Like, yeah, of course I've reviewed RSL speakers. Richard McCoy, I don't like the taste of snake oil, but I enjoy the smell of alicorn powder. I don't know what that means, bro. Nathan Darby, I bought so many speakers solely based on reviews. Thank you, brother. Awesome, bro. Awesome. I appreciate that, Nathan. Well, I appreciate it if they've made you happy and if you found my impressions to be in line with your experience. That's my hope, right? Oh, DR, that is so true. That is so true. DR said, he's talking about perception. When you wash your car, it drives better. I could not agree more. That is so true. Or an oil change. You do an oil change and wash your car on the same day. Oh my God, you feel like you're driving a brand new car. It drives smoother for some reason. You know, it's crazy. It's all perception, but it feels so real. Mark Collins says, we talked a while at Expona about the E50, so I appreciate it. Is it possible to truly experience something like sound differently based on your expectations? It can actually happen. Yeah, 100%. 100% it can happen, yeah. Hold on, Jock. I got to sip some water before I answer that incredibly loaded question. Take another sip of a different drink. That's how loaded this man's question is. Just wait for this shit. This guy's Jock out here really trying to start some beef and put me on the spot. Jock 101 says, do you think Cheap Audio Man is extremely annoying? I do. Well, I would say to that, if you find a reviewer's content not to your taste, don't watch that reviewer, watch a different reviewer. Do I find Randy's content annoying? I don't watch other reviews, really. So I don't watch Randy's content, so I don't have an opinion on it. I know Randy as a person, and I can tell you this. If I text him and say, hey, man, how you doing? He texts me back. And he asks me how I'm doing. And he's genuinely interested in hearing how I'm doing. I'll never forget. One time I was like, oh, I'm good, just a little bit stressed out about work. And he's like, oh, bro, like, what's good? You want to hop on a call and chat about it? Like, he was there for me. He had my back. He had genuine interest in my well-being. And he's a good dude, man. He is a good dude. I could call him right now. And if he's busy and I'm like, dude, I just need someone to talk to, he'll make time. He's a good dude, man. As far as his content, though, I mean, I've seen some of his work, but it was so long ago. And it's it's nothing personal. Again, I don't watch most reviewers' reviews. There's very few reviewers I watch. Like, I watch Zero Fidelity because he's back now, and I'm like curious what he's making. I'll watch some Andrew Robinson reviews if I'm like specifically interested in the product. But you got to realize, most of Randy's gear that he reviews, it's not like stuff in my wheelhouse, right? This is like not stuff like I would ever review, really, for the most part. So like, why would I watch them, right? And it's the same with like Jay-Z Aggie. I hardly watch any of Jay's videos. Maybe one or two times a year, I'll watch one of Jay-Z Aggie's videos. I'm more likely to watch Sound News or IIWI. And I love Jay. Jay's a great guy. You know what I mean? I don't watch a lot of YouTube reviews. My YouTube feed is mostly Science fiction short stories, firearms content, anime content, video game content. That's mostly what I'm watching on YouTube. Or physics videos. I watch a lot of physics videos, super into that stuff. Where do we leave off? Gonna have to use Control F. There we go. Ian says, grandma's cables. I'm onto something. You might be. You might be onto something. Eric Harrelson says, I tune in for life's biggest questions. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Maybe you're referencing me when I said I got a little philosophical. Carla says, have you tried Ethernet switches and Ethernet filters for better sound? I have, and they made a noticeable difference on my streamer. Yeah, this is another thing I don't like talking about because, again, it just makes so many people angry. So I have a Silent Angel network switch. I think it's like a $400 network switch. It makes a difference. Yeah, it makes a difference. I wish it didn't. I wish it didn't. It does. It does. Is it a huge difference? No, not a huge difference for me, but it did seem to make a difference. Is it psychological? I don't know. Maybe. Hard to say. Richard says alicorn is the name of the unicorn horns. How do you know that? Says grind up the alicorn and you get alicorn powder. It's magical. How do you know that? Like, what? That's like deep fantasy lore. Larry Seidman, far too few subs for what you do. I appreciate that. Thank you. I do. I get it though. My content is low quality in terms of like visual appeal. I film, edit, and upload everything from my iPhone. My videos don't look very beautiful. And I came on at a time where YouTube was starting to get very saturated, you know? Nathan says they do. My Rel 1003 Mark IIs are ridiculous. Yeah, dude, I love the Rel 1003 Mark II. That's a great sub. I still have it. It's a long-term review sample. I told Rel, I'm like, that is my small subwoofer reference. I'd like to hold on to this for a little bit. Any subwoofer that comes through the door for review, if it's $1,000 or less, I compare it to the 1003 Mark II. Yeah, Nathan says crazy bang for the buck. Absolutely. Yeah. Carlos says your mood alone can change your perspective on sound. I agree with that. It's a lot like, have you ever been in a bad mood or stressed out and you're going out and you get dressed, you look in the mirror and you're like, God, I look terrible. You change your clothes and you still feel like you look terrible. The crazy thing is you're wearing clothes you've probably worn 100 times and never thought you looked terrible. But on this particular day, you think you look terrible. It's all in your head. You know, it's the same with sound. You know, there's been days I've sat down to listen to music and nothing sounds good. Nothing. I switch speakers. I'm feeling restless. Nothing sounds right. You know, it's definitely all in my head. John says, I'm with you, bro. Richard says his daughter was obsessed with unicorns. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, if your kid's obsessed with something, you are going to know about it. You know what I'm saying? You are going to learn about it. The kid is going to tell you. They're going to ask you questions. Yep. Jock says Silent Angel is a car wash. What are you talking about, bro? Like a soap for cars? It's a brand? I didn't know that. That's funny. Yeah, no, it's also a company that makes like streamers, network switches, power supplies, things like that. That's a good question, Carlos. He says, at what price point do you think you get diminishing returns on sound quality? None. I don't. You don't. Maybe north of 100K. Like I don't know. I don't play in that wheelhouse though. So far in my experience, I've not experienced diminishing returns necessarily. I think it's a matter of perspective. Now, going from a $500 speaker to a $1,000 speaker, like going from an Emotiva XB1 to a Dynaudio Emit 20 is quite the jump. That's, you're doubling your budget, and that is quite the jump. Going from a $1,000 speaker to like a $2,000, $2,500 speaker, again, we're doubling our money. It's still a pretty big jump. It's a little bit smaller than the first jump, but it's still really big. Now, going from a $2,500 speaker to a $5,000 speaker, again, a little bit smaller of a jump, but still a pretty big jump. It's still a pretty big jump. Now, going from like a really good like $4,500, $5,000 speaker to like a $10,000 speaker, does the jump get a little smaller in what you get? In some ways, sure. Like if we're talking sound quality only, we're not talking about internal parts selection, build quality, driver materials, and things like that. We're just sound quality only. There's still an improvement. Like I've it's this like, I think the problem with that phrase of like diminishing returns, like I often hear someone say something like, yeah, you're like spending double to just get like a few percent more improvement. Maybe on some products, I think with some products it can be like that. Maybe with DACs, in my opinion, like a really good DAC, right? You get one that's twice the price. Like it is better, sure, but it's not like that big of a jump like I did with speakers. Like a $1,000 DAC and a $2,000 DAC, they don't have the same like increase in performance the way a $1,000 speaker and a $2,000 speaker are. Also with amps, like a $1,000 amp to a $2,000 amp, it's not like this huge jump necessarily. There's some that really punch above their weight, like the eMay, but take that out of the equation. Like for me, for example, most streamers under $1,000 sound the same to me in terms of total sound quality. So yeah, going from like a inexpensive like Weem to like a Blue Sound Node, you're gonna feel like this diminishing return thing is super real. But you go from a $1,000 speaker to a $2,500 speaker, and you're gonna be like, oh my God, this sounds incredible. So it really depends. It depends on your value system too, on where your expectations were, Like I was a little bit disappointed in the Focal Canta number 1 at $8,000. I was expecting a lot more. And at first I was like, oh, maybe this is diminishing returns. But then I found out in almost the rest of the world, most of Europe, that's a speaker that sells for about $5,500. And then it made a lot more sense. Richard says, I don't think it's mood. I think it's electrical phase on the grid. What's ever changing. I've been not in the mood and then turned on the system and was in the mood. I've had that experience also, Richard. I have. I do think there's other things that impact sound. I think humidity can impact what my system sounds like, or like just the general weather. I've noticed like when it's raining outside, my system does sound a little bit different. Roof Pizza, another excellent username, says, totally agree, the mood, not the unicorns. Nathan Darby says, have you ever listened to a full 3D setup? What are your thoughts if you have? I'm looking to get one day when funds allow. Yeah, I have. It was super impressive, super cool in a lot of ways. Also super distracting to me, but I don't like surround sound for like movies. So no surprise, I don't really care for 3D, like hi-fi, right? But like my friend whose system is like that, he thinks it's the coolest thing in the world. He absolutely loves it. So that's just a preference thing. It's not for me, but it is super cool in a lot of ways. Like I found it impressive. It's just not something I would want, right? Like I could say the same about a lot of things. I think trucks are super cool. My buddy has a Ford F-350 turbo diesel. It's an awesome truck, but it's not for me. I don't want to own it. Corky Duke, number 2, says, I don't think you ever talk about it on your channel, but you must be into car audio, yes? Yes, Corky, I am. Of course I am. And you are correct. I don't talk about it on the channel because car audio it's like 95% DIY. It's mostly DIY. I can't review it because your results are going to change so much, so much. And I'll explain an example. I have a Memphis Mojo MJ M844 driver. That's the subwoofer driver I use. It's an 8-inch. It's a really great 8-inch subwoofer. I have it in a custom vented box I designed. I designed the airspace, the port tuning, the port area, the dimensions, everything. And I had someone else build it for me. So I got exactly what I was looking for out of that driver. And I did something a little bit unorthodox. I tuned the port below the speaker's resonant frequency. That's a big no-no generally in designing a cabinet. You sacrifice a tremendous amount of your total output in doing so. And I didn't care because I don't listen that loud in my car. What I wanted was really, really meaty extension. So I was more than happy to sacrifice a lot of my SPL capability for that extension. And as a result, I've got an 8 that at lower volumes sounds like a vented 12. And I'm super happy. Now, that same driver in your car, even with the same box, even with the same amp, is going to sound totally, totally different. Different cars have a different amount of cabin gain, right? It can be insane in some cars, terrible in others. Also, my car happens to be a hatchback, right? I have an Audi S7. So my trunk shares the same airspace as the cabin, much like an SUV would. And anyone in the car audio knows cars like that always are going to have the best bass. You want that same level of bass out of a car with a separate trunk that's isolated from the main cabin, you're not going to be able to get the sound I have out of an 8-inch driver if you have a separate trunk. Just there's no way. You're fighting through the seat, the rear deck lid. It's just not going to happen, you know? But yeah, I'm into car audio. DR says, damn, Macintosh dehumidifier. I get what you're saying, but like, man, that was vague. That was vague. Carlos says, playing your hi-fi at night when the electric grid is not under stress sounds better to me. I've heard a lot of people say that. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that. There might be some truth to that. Rad Kong says, hello, hope all is well. Hey, thank you, brother. All is well. Nathan says, how random. I bought an A6 2 days ago. Great car. Great car. Did you get the 4-banger? Like the A4 engine, high output, or did you get the turbo V6? Curious. Most people don't know, but the A6 does have a 4-cylinder option. One of my buddies bought it. He bought an A6 and he got the 4-banger option. I made fun of him for that. Me personally, I got the twin turbo V8. Big fan of that engine. I like fast cars. I like horsepower. Whoa, almost fell. Carlos says, you're obviously handy with your hands. Have you ever tried to build a speaker system with quality parts? No, bro, no. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. I am handy with my hands. I am. I could lower a car. You know what I mean? I could change shocks. I could change the clutch on like a manual transmission car, axles, whatever. Like, I am handy. Doesn't mean I like doing it. I do not like doing it. That is not fun for me. Woodworking is a total different story. I'm bad at that and additionally do not enjoy it. I have no desire. Even when I reviewed the CSS Crichtons, I talked to CSS before and I was like, hey guys, like I really want to review your speaker, but there's no chance I'm building it. I need like a finished set, you know? And they were super cool about that. Super cool. They got me a finished set and for the 1TDX and I reviewed them. But no, I'm not into DIY myself at all. Jock says Lexus Mark Levinson systems sound very nice. Yeah, some factory car stereos sound really, really good. My buddy, like this must have been 12, 13 years ago. He had a Hyundai Genesis, the sedan, and it had a system by Lexicon. I'm not familiar with them. Sounded incredible. The Bowers and Wilkins that used to be in the older like 7 series and 5 series as an upgrade sounded incredible. My car's has a Bose system. Actually sounds really good. My belief is a lot of the German cars and just luxury cars in general tend to have good audio, mostly because of the better insulation, like within the car, you know? Nathan saying he got an A6 Ultra S line with the 2-liter diesel TDI. Interesting. We don't have that engine option in the US. I didn't know that was available. That is pretty cool. I'm glad you love it. That's a great chassis, you know, because the A6 and my S7, they share the same chassis. Great car, great car. Yanni Manico? In my audio budget, how big of a percent should I put in my subwoofer versus speakers versus amps? The budget could be 1,000 or 2,000, for example. Whoa, Yanni, that's not how my brain works. I understand your question, but that's just not how my brain works. Let me think what's a better way I can help you. It depends on your room and what you're trying to accomplish, bro. Like if you're doing theater and you're like, I want my home to sound like a real movie theater or better, a lot of your budget has to go to subwoofers, like a lot. But if you're like, I just want, you know, a little bit of bass to like just fill out my speakers, you know, and I'm in a small room, you know, a $200 Vanguard Caldera might be all you need, you know, and it just depends how much the rest of your gear costs. Yanni, tell me a little bit about your system, what speakers you're using, if it's stereo or theater, and tell me about maybe 2 or 3 subwoofers you're thinking about getting, and I'll see if I can steer you in the right direction. Alex BPM2, Nemo, could you live with the Arendelle 1528? No, I couldn't live with it. Is it to my taste? No. Looking for some wide soundstage and airy top end. That it does that. That's what it is. Yes. It is too physically large for me to want to live with it. It's way too large. I'm not interested in having that large of a speaker. I like the way small speakers look aesthetically. The sound of the Arendelle 1528, there's nothing wrong with it. It airs mostly neutral, mostly clarity focused, but I already own the Platamon if I want to sound like that's more on the clarity side. And the Platamon has even more detail. You know, I mean, it is $1,500 more expensive. Granted, the Platamon doesn't have the bass of the 1528, nor can it play as loud. But if I want a speaker that leans towards analytical, I already have the Platamon. Let me see what else you asked. Yeah, you're looking for a speaker with a wide soundstage and an airy top end with sparkle. That's the 1528. Now, if you're worried it's going to be too neutral for rock or metal, like how much is too much, you know? How much cheese is too much cheese on a cheeseburger, bro? For me, 1 slice is all I want. Some guys like 2, you know? A lot of this stuff is preference. It also depends what your connected equipment is. If you connect the Arendelle 1528 to a warmer amp and like a R2R DAC, you might be like, no, this speaker's not neutral. It's got some richness to it, you know? It also depends what kind of rock and metal you're listening to. You're listening to good recordings like Arch Enemy, or, you know, like really bad recordings like old Japanese rock, you know? Carlos says he's driving an old 330i E46 2004. Best value for power and cheap motoring. Yeah, those older BMWs are great. And they look great too. They look fantastic. I don't like what BMW's doing right now, aesthetically. Fletcher Munson says, I used to make fun of Bose and I found out I have one in my car. So I'm a bozo now. That's funny. Good play on words. Kiowa 69. What speaker would you choose that can also handle movie soundtracks at 95 to 100 dB peaks with ease? Arendelle 1528, Bacardi E50, or the Clear Acoustic? Clarity Acoustic. The Radiant 6.2 you're probably talking about. Like, I love the E50. I do. But if you want a speaker, and I'm not saying the E50 can't do 95 or 100 dB. I don't know if it can. I don't play speakers that loud. Let's just assume all 3 of these speakers can. That larger Arendelle 1528 is just, it's going to do it more effortless. It's going to do it with a bigger sense of scale. If you don't mind the physical size of that Arundel being, just so much more substantial in your home, I mean, that's what it's for, boss. Like, you go for that one. Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, I love the Bucard E50. I do. It's a fantastic speaker, but it can get properly loud. Don't get me wrong. But the Arundel 1528 being so much larger will be more effortless at those big peaks. It just will. Hope that helped. Kiowas says, I have a Hagel H360 amp in a 21 by 14.4 foot room. Okay, that's good. Why are you telling me this? Oh, you're saying, Kiowas, I didn't ask what amp you had because you listed 3 speakers that were very difficult to drive. I just assumed you already had amplification for that. But thank you for confirming, Richard McCoy says there's no such thing as too much cheese on a cheeseburger. I don't know, bro. I don't know about that. Even if like it's got 2 patties, I'm pretty happy with 1 slice of cheese personally. Fletcher Munson says one of my ProRock Response 1 SCFE speakers committed suicide. I'm sorry to hear that, brother. Anyone know of a place for drivers or an orphan single speaker? ProAct doesn't have them. Oh no. That's a bummer. I'm guessing they're older. That is a bummer. Can anyone help this man? I'm gonna read it again. Fletcher Munson has the ProAct Response 1 SCFE speakers. He needs a driver. If you've got a driver available or just a single speaker, he might want to buy it. Holler at this man. Or if anyone's watching this in the future and you have that, Fletcher is someone I talk to periodically through email. I have his contact information. You can get a hold of me and I'll put you in contact with him if anyone can help him. Alex BPM says, yeah, I heard the Platimon at Zeos Pantera's house with classy amps and it was too dry neutral for me. I mean, yeah, it sounds like they were set up to be too dry and neutral using classy amps. That's not how I would run the Platimon. I'm realizing it must be very finicky with gear pairing because everyone describes it different. I mean, yeah, when a speaker is that revealing, you got to pair with care. Absolutely. Like the Platimon is like a $6,000 a pair speaker. Sure. You should look at it like it's a $15,000 a pair speaker in terms of how you pair with amplification. You're not going to just connect anything to it. No, the Platimon will show you right away if your amplifier is not up to the task. If your amplifier is the weak link in the signal chain, then the Platimon is so revealing. It will show you right away. Like even my Kinky Studio monoblocks and preamp is not the best match for a Platimon. I think the best inexpensive amp you can get for the Platimon is something like the Choco Ime, but you're still not going to be getting like the very best out of them. Like the Platimon should be paired up with like a nice AccuPhase, honestly. That's what they should be paired up to. And just to be clear, that's not going to shift its sound to like warm and tonally rich. It is still a detail-focused presentation. That is what the speaker sound is. But it's with an AccuPhase, the Platimon just beautiful. Kiowa says, thanks for the reply. No problem, brother. Carlos says, what's your thoughts on Macintosh now that's been bought by Bose? Do you think quality and identity will go downhill? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, Volkswagen Group owns Lamborghini. I think Fiat Group was a majority stakeholder in Ferrari for a while. We didn't really have any problems. They let them mostly. Excuse me. They let them operate mostly independently, and there was hardly any change. Matter of fact, I'd say for the Volkswagen group taking over Lamborghini, it was a great thing, and that made Lamborghini even better, much better. They had access to Audi's all-wheel drive technology, and they've Their cars have really become something special as a result. Much better. So it depends how the Bose Group runs it. If they allow Macintosh to remain Macintosh, it will probably be the brand it's always been. If Bose introduces new technologies as an option that Macintosh can implement, if they see it as a gain, it could even become better. But if Bose tries to manage it and run it their way, it could become something different for better or for worse. That's usually how those things work. Nathan Darby says, it always annoys me when people say they can't hear a difference in AVRs, but I own a Denon X3300 and my dad has a Marantz 7012 and the difference is night and day. Yeah, well, Nathan, don't be annoyed. They probably can't hear the difference. Some people can't hear the difference. I have friends that think most sparkling water tastes the same. There's people that think bass is just SPL and frequency and subwoofers don't sound different. It's just different output and extension. And that's insane. Not everyone's hearing is the same. DR says, I recall Nemo saying how much salt is too much. It's easier to understand only because cheese is good. A good point, DR. Good point. Yeah, how much salt is too much salt in your bowl of ramen or pho or on your steak? How much is too much? Because too much salt, everyone agrees, will ruin a meal. But guys, my aunt, she puts salt on salad. She puts salt on everything. She loves it. Yanni says, I asked about the budget percentage to hear what you find most important, main speakers or the amp or perhaps the sub. Since you love subs, I've heard all the arguments, the amp is the most important, etc. Oh, yeah, bro, if that's what you wanted to know, that's what you should have asked. For me, it's amp. I think the amp is the most important component. I think a good high quality amp is the most important thing. Like a Choco Ime is probably the best inexpensive amp in my opinion. It's like $1,700. That amp with like $100 speaker, you'll be really surprised. You'll be really surprised. Speakers matter too. Like your source matters. Like, yeah, your DAC matters. Your sub matters. Yeah. But if I was building a system today, a good high quality amp is what I would view as the foundation and would be my first and most important purchase. Second most important for me would be a subwoofer. And then the speaker is just to taste, like what I'm looking for. But like a lot of your fidelity comes from the amp. Like really good speakers on a crappy amp won't sound good. But really crappy speakers on a really good amp can sound good, if that makes sense. Ariel Yorstad says, greetings from the north. Arundel Sound has resumed production of the 1961 series. Yeah, about a month ago I saw that announcement. I thought that was pretty cool. That 1961 bookshelf that used to be like $800, I think it's like $900 now. That was like a favorite of mine. I really liked it. I felt like it got you pretty close to the LS50 Meta for much less. Yanni says, I'm shopping in the used market to save money. I personally would spend more on the amp and upgrade speakers later than sub. Yeah, do that. I support that. Carlos says, synergy with different equipment is a real thing. 100%. 100%. Fletcher says, thanks, bro. You are the best. I got a pair of Wharfdale 225 speakers for a placeholder, and damn if they are not very good for $295. Just add isolators and upgrade the jumper cables, and you have a winner. Yeah. I could. The inexpensive category has really come a long way. In the past, a few $100 speakers would not impress the average audiophile figure 20 years ago, but that's really, really improved. We've seen a lot of gains in inexpensive speakers. Alex BPM says, such a great topic because people like me want a speaker to make a bad recording sound better, like 90s alternative. There are speakers like that. Maybe Arundel is a safer choice than the revealing Platinum, possibly. Yeah, yeah. The Platimon is not going to make a recording sound better at all. It's going to do the opposite. It's going to show you. Even the recording you thought was okay, the Platimon's going to show you, no, it's not. You thought it was okay, it's not. The Arendelle 1528 actually a little bit fixes bad recordings. That really surprised me because it's fairly revealing, not on the level of the Platimon, which I consider like ultra revealing. But the Arendelle 1528 has really good, great resolution. Yet somehow you could listen to bad recordings like no problem. And it kind of fixes them a little bit. Another one that fixed bad recordings was like the Zoo DWX. The new Zoom method I have in for reviews like that too, and some other speakers I can't recall, but I've mentioned it in the reviews. Anytime a speaker did that, obviously most warm speakers can do that also, but the Arendelle 1528 was a big shocker because it was so detailed. Yet it was like, oh, you got a bad recording, boss? No problem. No problem. I'm going to make that sound great for you. It was really flexible. Mads Hansen says, if you have heard the Borson X1, how do they compare to the E50? I know there's $1,000 difference. Best regards. Yeah, sorry, bro. I have not heard the Borsons. I've like tried to like get in contact with them. The few times I've like talked to them at trade shows, they're cool. Don't get me wrong. They're cool, but they got a lot going on, man. They got a lot going on. I think like their company like really took off in the past few years. I don't even know if they're looking for reviews right now. I haven't really heard them. Alex BPM agrees. He says, hell yes, the amp is the most important. The same guys on forums keep spreading bad info that the preamp is the most important. That's completely false considering the massive change in sound with amps. So just to be clear, Alex, when I say the amp, I'm talking about the whole shebang. If we're talking about separates, I'm talking preamp and your amp and your power amp. If we're talking integrateds, I'm talking about the whole thing. The whole thing. Preamp is actually a big difference. A good high quality preamp. Like my system is really, really good at low volumes. Killer low volume dynamics. That's my preamp. My preamp is bringing that to the table. The refinement is a combination of my preamp and my power amps. But when I say amp, I'm referring to the pre section also. It's that whole shebang is required as the foundation. How long we've been doing this? 107 minutes. We're approaching the tail end. Nemo Propaganda is starting to lose his voice. Damn, we got more thumbs up than people in the chat now. Thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Nathan says, I'm with you on budget speakers. I'm rocking the Polk XT line for my entire bed layer. Unbelievable for the money they slam. I haven't heard the XT. I heard the one that came before it. And the one before it was really bad. It was really bad. So I'm happy with the XT. They've made it better. I'm a big fan of the Polk Reserve range. That stuff's crazy good. You could hear the price a little bit in the tweeter. Obviously in the finish, vinyl finish. But the mid-range, fantastic, man. Polk Reserve. Mid-range is fantastic. So, all right, guys. I don't see any new questions popping in. I'm going to give you like a minute or two for burning desires. If anyone's got a question they want to get off their chest, drop it in the chat. But this is kind of the natural point where most of my streams tend to end. Usually it's kind of, either right below or at or above the 2 hour mark. And that's kind of where we're at. If you guys still got questions, I'll keep answering them, but I don't like to overstay my welcome, Alex says he missed me at Expo this year. Did I have a favorite room? Yeah. So Alex is saying his money was on the Modrite and Alta Audio. Alyssa's were crazy good. Also the Luxman. Of course, yeah, Luxman. Any room with like Luxman Accuphase is going to sound great. My favorite room was Neil Blanchard's. It's a DIY kit. You buy the plans from him. I believe he also sells a flat pack. Neil Blanchard's speakers are crazy. He has these, I believe one of them is discontinued now, he was saying. So he's got these two transmission lines, and the bass power that was coming out of these things was crazy. Absolutely crazy, man. Oh my God. The Neil Blanchard Designs room was super cool, super impressive. The Gishelli room next door was super cool too. Of course, Live's room sounded great. A lot of rooms sounded great. You know what I mean? Sonic Mainliner says preamps are super important. Digital only, like on DAX. Miss out on dynamics at low levels. I can see that. It's by no accident that preamps are more expensive than power amps. They can be. I mean, they could be cheaper sometimes too. Like my mono blocks are more expensive than my preamp, but it's from the same brand, you know. Yanni's asking what my favorite game is at the moment. So I don't play a lot of video games. I do love JRPGs, but I only play about like anywhere from 1 to 3 a year. I was like deep in the like Trails of Cold Steel series. I finished it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 Trails into Reverie, and I really enjoyed that. The new ones, like of that series, Trails Through Daybreak, I didn't like. I pick up a lot of games, only play them for an hour and just can't get into them. Like I tried that one that was super popular. What was it called? Oh my God, the name is escaping me. What? I'm gonna just hop into my Steam library real quick. But I'll go like months and months and months and try to get into a game, and I can't. I just cannot do it. Like I love the Star Ocean games, but I've played them all. I played Ys Origins like maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago, and that was cool. What else? Cosmic Star Heroine was an awesome like indie RPG game I played. I love that game. What else? Like Chained Echoes is another like indie RPG. I tried to get into it. Everyone loved it, and I just couldn't get into it. I played it for I gave it like 11 hours, 10 hours, which is a lot. Usually after 2 hours, if I'm not feeling it, I throw in the towel. What else? Like Hogwarts Legacy, I tried that. 2 hours later, I was like, this isn't for me. Most games just they're not for me for one reason or another. There's nothing I'm playing. Book, yeah, bro. Guys, I'm reading like 25 books a year. I put down a lot of books. I just finished yesterday. I finished Ball Lightning by Shijin Liu. That's the author of the 3 Body Problem trilogy or quadrilogy, depending on how you look at it. That book was like, it was not his best work in my opinion. I didn't love it. The ending, the tail end, like the last 1/4 was fantastic. But the first 3/4 of that book, I had to really push through. Expeditionary Force is my favorite book series right now. I'm also reading the Dune books. I'm on the 3rd one. And it's all right. It's cool. You know, it's good. I finished the Expanse series. I want to read another Adrian Tchaikovsky book. I like his work a lot. I've read his like Children of Time series and his Final Architecture trilogy. And so I've read like 6 Adrian Tchaikovsky books. I'm trying to find a new one. I read Ringworld like 2 months ago, and I was super disappointed in that. Same with Rendezvous with Rama. Like there was so much hype around like Rendezvous with Rama, Ringworld, and Orwell's 1984. I read all of those this year, and I was disappointed in all of those. I read all those 3 because they're like classics in science fiction, and I was like, they were like okay. Like I didn't love them, you know. So Carlos says digital or analog. I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, like I use a streamer, that's digital, but the rest of my system is all analog. SWAT says, dude, Neil Blanchard's room was fire. Yeah, it was. Frank Garcia says he appreciates my reviews. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate you. Dave is asking if Neil had his super towers. His biggest tower had like what looked like a 6.5-inch driver. Maybe it was an 8-inch. I'm not sure, but he had one tower that was a little bigger. I don't know what it was called. Nathan says, keep doing what you do, buddy. Defo, my favorite reviewer. Next to Andrew Robinson. Thank you. Thank you. Andrew Robinson is a great reviewer. Fletcher Munson says, use Rogue RP preamps are usually had for half. Like the RP5 is 4,000 retail, 2,000 secondhand. It's amazing. Tube hybrid. Dave Apex, how would you rate Neil's speakers versus CSS? Completely different. Neil Blanchard is making transmission line towers. CSS does have towers and they have a lot of bass also, but most people are buying like CSS bookshelf speakers. I'll say this. Neil Blanchard's transmission line compared to CSS towers, both have tremendous bass, like for sure. But like Neil Blanchard's is cheaper because he's not selling you the kit really. Neil Blanchard's is selling you the design. I think it's like $100 or so, maybe $149. He's selling you the design. It's a parts list and a how-to. CSS is selling you a complete DIY kit with a crossover board, everything. They're different approaches. Like Neil Blanchard's is some approaches for someone that's a little more handy, whereas CSS is a great starting point. I'll say this too, the CSS speakers are going to be able to play a lot louder, you know, than the transmission lines that Neil's doing, just because like the CSS kits are traditional speakers. They have more drivers in them. Like they're going to have more maximum like volume and output over something that's single driver transmission line. Alex BPM says Final Fantasy VII on PS1 was my favorite RPG, and I'll never forget it. Me too, brother. I did play Final Fantasy VII Remake. I just haven't played Rebirth. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII is epic. I will go ahead and say Chrono Trigger I liked more than the original Final Fantasy VII. Yanni says, maybe add the book game names in the description box. Maybe I have a chance to look them up. Thanks. Hop in my free Discord. We have a book section, and you can always ask me about it there. Frank says he just picked up a Rotel RA6000. Having much more power opens the door to so many other speakers. I mean, yeah, depending on what you have, yeah. George says, a personal taste question. If you could only live with one Buchard S400 Mark II. I don't know why people always ask me this. Like, that I've said it a million times, and I'm unapologetic about this. I love the S400 Mark II. I love it. I know there's better speakers out there. I own speakers that are better. The E50 is better. My Platimon is better. There are so many speakers better than the Buchard S400 Mark II, but I love it. It's like if you have a dog. You love your dog. You don't want a different dog than the dog you have. You and that dog, you're like this. And the S400 Mark II is just that sound for me, you know? It's a personal taste thing. The S400 Mark II is everything I want out of a speaker. And lucky for me, it's not super expensive, right? Now, that doesn't mean it's the speaker everyone should buy. It doesn't mean it's the best speaker in the world. I just told you, Buchard's own E50 is completely on another level. But, you know, I love the S400 Mark II. Nothing will change that. That's just simple. Carlos says, I have the shit Cara preamp. Not bad for the price. I've never heard their stuff, really. Chalk says, as you get older, games become non-existent. Well, I think that happens for most people because they have families. I don't have a family. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I don't even have pets. I got lots of time on my hands. My life is mine, 100%. I have a very narrow taste in games. I'm a huge fan of science fiction, so I like JRPG games. If they could take place in a science fiction universe like Star Ocean 2 or any Star Ocean game, we are absolutely winning. And it's just not, it's just hard to find a game like that I love, though. Dave Apex says, how about the rest of the frequency range, Neil versus CSS? Bro, I've only heard the CSS speakers at a trade show for the towers. I've only heard Neil's speakers at a trade show. I can't really, I'm not going to compare based on a hotel room what something sounds like. Very, very like imperfect setup. I can't remember what amps either room was using. I don't know if I'm hearing a power conditioner, a streamer, an amp. You know, all I can tell you is both rooms sound great. But again, the problem with the trade shows, it's hard to know what you're listening to. You know, like in my home, in my room, I have had the Blue Sound Node N130 for like 3 months, and I have not introduced it to my system because I'm like, once I do, it's going to change my front end. It has to be at the right time or it's going to mess up my reviews. You know, I'm really, really, just have a lot of attention to detail with respect to like what I'm specifically hearing. You know, I want to say 8-9 months ago, I changed my bass traps and I had to wait for the right time to implement them into my system because my system isn't just for me. It's for you guys too. My system is my reference. I have to be very careful with it, but I will not compare two rooms I heard at a trade show. I think that would be very irresponsible of me. Alex says, if you love the S400 Mark II, you should do a review of the Alta Audio Alyssa. What is that? I don't even know what that is. They sound like the S400, taken up a notch in every area. Yeah, I know. There's other speakers like that too. The Spendor Classic 3.1 is like the S400 Mark II to another level. But I like the S400 Mark II. I don't think you guys understand what I'm telling you. I don't care if something's better. I don't want more. Oh, those are too ugly for me, bro. I'm sorry. I know about those speakers. I don't care how good they are. Those things are so ugly. I won't even review them. I don't care. They could offer me $2,000 to review them. I still won't. Maybe if they pay me $2,000, I'll review them. But those speakers are too ugly. I don't care about those. But yeah, look, you need to understand what I'm saying here. I don't care about better. Like my car is a Audi S7 from 2018. I bought it new in 2018. I've had it for 6 years now. I know there are cars that are better. Even when I bought my car, there's still the RS7. Like my car's a twin turbo V8 with 450 horsepower. The RS7 is my car with more power. I don't care. I like mine. I don't care. I don't want better. I like the thing I have. And for me, it's the S400 Mark II. I don't want an upgrade. If I want more detail, I'll pull out the Platinum. If I want more bass power, I'll pull out the E50. But when I listen to the S400 Mark II, I don't want something else. That's what I want. It's like when you're like with food, I don't care for expensive food. My favorite food is usually cheap. Like if I'm eating a bean and cheese burrito from Taco Bell and someone's like, dude, there's this better Mexican place down the street. I don't care. I like Taco Bell. You know what I mean? Like, do you get what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not on the merry-go-round. I'm not like, better doesn't matter to me. But like it does if I'm reviewing something, but for my personal taste, the S400 is the one for me. If I was to upgrade and I wanted the exact same sound, it would be Spendor Classic 3.1 though. Dave says, thanks. DR says, at some point you need to be satisfied or it never stops. Yeah, you get it, DR. Exactly. Like I'm satisfied. I've been satisfied for years now. You know what I mean? It's like same with my car. I'm satisfied. With my stereo, I'm satisfied. But you guys got to remember, I used the Aries 2 DAC for years, and that is way underpriced for the rest of my system. I'm giving up like resolution to use the Aries DAC. It is not on par with the rest of the gear I have. I just didn't care because I liked it. So anyway, I think that's a stream, guys. We just crossed over the 2-hour mark. We're at 124 minutes almost. I appreciate everyone who tuned in. I appreciate everyone who asked questions. And I appreciate everyone who you were too busy to ask a question, but you had the stream playing in the background as maybe you're tidying up the living room, the kitchen, maybe doing laundry. You got your phone in your pocket. You just kick back, relax, and you hung out with us, but you couldn't participate. I still appreciate that. So thank you to everyone saying thank you. Happy Easter to everyone. You know, hey, whether you're religious or not doesn't really matter. Spend the rest of the day, you know, with yourself, maybe with family. If you got family, you got a dog, take that beautiful dog on a walk, whatever it may be. And until next time, everyone, take care. All right.